Hi girls, Mr. Gilmore here, and we are moving on to a slightly new topic. This is all part of our overall algebra revision. We've done kind of a review over basic algebra. Now let's start looking at stuff that kind of came in kind of in second year for you guys, simultaneous equations, okay? So this is when we have a situation like, x plus y equals 5 and x plus 2y equals 7, find x and y. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to first look at how to solve positive simultaneous equations. And then also we're going to look at how to check if our simultaneous equation is correct. So kind of the value of the second part here is that it will mean that you guys will be able to kind of sit back, look at a simultaneous equation after you've finished it in the exam, check it, and that'll end up saving you marks if you realize, oh, I've made a mistake. Similarly, they can actually just ask you to show whether or not certain simultaneous equations are like certain solutions to a simultaneous equation are correct or not. So normally when this is taught, it's kind of taught in a very abstracted way. I don't like that because I actually think simultaneous equations might be one of the few parts of maths that really is super applicable to a lot of situations. So imagine, just as an idea, you and your friends are walking past a chipper and you pop in to buy some chips for everyone. Okay, so you pop in, you buy 3 bags of chips and one of those big bottles of Sprite, and it costs you about €13. Okay, now they ask you if they can pay you back. You say absolutely not. Don't you worry about it. And then the next time you're out, you go in and you buy chips again. And this time you buy 4 bags of chips and you buy 2 of those big bottles of Sprite. And this time your friends are like, no, we're definitely paying you back. How much was my bag of chips? How much was a bottle of Sprite? And you have no idea. Okay. Reasonable enough situation. Very much one that can be solved using simultaneous equations. So the first thing we need to do with this kind of question is we need to kind of turn it into maths. We need to turn it into a mathsy form. So we've got 3 bags of chips and 1 bottle of Sprite costs €13. 4 bags of chips and 2 bottles of Sprite cost €20. So let's think about that. Okay. And I'm just going to call bags of chips just C. Okay. So 3 bags of chips plus 1 Sprite is equal to €13. Obviously, I don't need to write in that 1 in maths, but just to keep myself going. And then similarly, I'm going to go, okay, 4 bags of chips. Oh, I nearly wrote B there for bag. 4 bags of chips and 2 bottles of Sprite is equal to €20. Okay. Now that I've mathematized this, I'm just going to label these two equations. I'm going to call them equation 1 and you guessed it, equation 2. Now, how do I end up solving this out? Well, I'm going to show you a little trick here, okay? If you take equation 1 and you multiply both sides by 2, okay? So if we're going, okay, if 3 bags of chips and 1 bottle of Sprite costs €13, then it makes sense that 6 bags of chips and 2 bottles of Sprite is going to equal 26 euro, isn't it? Just by scale. So multiply both sides of the equation by 2. We get something like this. And then again with equation 2 here, we've got something like this. Now, why did I do that? Well, I wanted to have the same coefficient. So that's the number that comes next to the variables for one of my variables. Because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go, okay, if 6 bags of chips and 2 bottles of Sprite cost 26 euro, and 4 bags of chips and 2 bottles of Sprite cost 20 euro, then what happens if I just subtract this equation? I know you're probably more used to subtracting expressions or single values, but if I subtract this equation, so if, as I've always established, if you take something away from one side of an equation, you have to take away the same thing from the other side of the equation. Well, we can say 20 is the same as 4c plus 2s. So if I take away 4c and 2s from the left-hand side, I can take away 20 from the right-hand side, and it's still correct, okay? So what I'm going to get here is I'm going to go 6c, take away 4c, it's going to be 2c, right? 2s, take away 2s, it's going to be 0s. Do you see why I went for trying to get the same coefficient for both sides? And then I can go, okay, 26, take away 20, that's 6. Okay, so from this, we've got 2 bags of chips is 6 euro, so grand, a bag of chips in this chipper is 3 euro. Pretty standard, okay? Okay. So we've got the cost of a bag of chips. Now what we want is we want the cost of a bottle of Sprite. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute in this value to this, okay? So we're going to go back to equation 1, the original equation 1 that is, this one here. And we're going to go, okay, 3c plus 1s, so 3 bags of chips and 1 bottle of Sprite equals 13 euro. A bag of chips costs 3 euro, so 3 multiplied by 3 plus s equals 13. So 9 plus s equals 13. So s equals, and it's going to be 13, take away 9, 4. Okay, so bag of chips, 3 euro. Bottle of Sprite, 4 euro. What I might suggest is even just give those values at the end in coordinate form. So c, comma, s equals bracket 3, comma, 4. Okay? Just to show, okay, this is my final answer. This is what I'm giving you, examiner, as my answer. This one here. Okay, so that seems pretty okay. That seems correct, but how do we know if it's correct? Well, we've got another little trick. We've got the ability to substitute in these values to our second equation, okay? So we'll go back to that second equation. We'll go, okay, 4c plus 2s equals 20, okay? So if we put 3 in for c and 4 in for s, we should get 20 there, shouldn't we? We should go, okay, 4 by 3 plus 2 by 4. 4 by 3 is 12. 2 by 4 is 8. That equals 20. You know what we've just gotten from that, girls? We've gotten a big tick. Absolutely correct. Should we do 1 or 2 more questions? Let's do 1 or 2 more questions, okay? So, I'm going to zoom out again here so that we can see the full equations. Okay, so we're going to look at 2 more equations. We're going to look at this one here and this one here. So I'm going to zoom in again, just because obviously otherwise I'm going to run out of space on this little slideshow. So let's zoom in to 2 plus y equals 7. 2x plus y equals 7. So we've dropped these c's and s's. We're just going to use x and y. what we normally do for these kind of equations. So now we're kind of abstracting it again. We're making it back to being pure maths. And again, we want to have at least one variable with the same coefficient. And oh my God, we're lucky with this one. These two, both of these have the same coefficient, don't they? They both have 1 as their coefficient. So we can just skip that multiplication section and we can just take away the second equation from the first, okay? So 2x, take away x. So 2 take away 1 is 1. 1 take away 1. So 1y take away 1y is 0y. And 7 take away 5 is 2. So we can just go, okay, x equals 2. Let's plug that back into a second equation here. You can plug it into either of these equations, actually. I'm going to, I'll plug it into 1 and then I'll use 2 to check my answers afterwards, okay? So 2 by 2 plus y equals 7. So 4 plus y equals 7. Y equals 3. Fantastic. Okay. Got x comma y equals 2 comma 3. Okay, so again, we give our final answers in coordinate form just to make things easier for the examiner. Now let's check if we have got a final correct answer here. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at equation 2 again. We're going to go, okay, that's x plus y equals 5. So 2 plus 3 equals 5. Yeah, that's completely correct. That one was actually easier than the bag of chips question. But I just wanted to give you kind of a more abstracted one before we look at one more question. That's going to be this question here. And this one's kind of interesting because you can decide which of the two variables you want to make disappear. Okay, so which one you want to eliminate at the beginning. So, and I'll zoom out of this and give you guys a chance to copy down any of these solutions you want at the end. So 2x plus y equals 13. X plus 2y equals 14. So I am going to multiply the first equation by 2. You could multiply the second equation by 2 and make both of these have 2 x's in front of them and then eliminate the x's. I'm going to decide to eliminate the y's. It's really just preference, okay? So I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 2. So 2x multiplied by 2 is 4x. Y multiplied by 2 is 2y. 13 multiplied by 2 is 26. Second equation here. That's going to be x plus 2y equals 14. And now, because we're dealing with positives, we'll go into when we're dealing with negative numbers tomorrow. Because we're dealing with positives, we're just going to subtract the bottom one from the top one. And do understand, girls, you will do some of these where you will get negative numbers. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it being a negative number. Just make sure to check your work at the end. Okay, so 4x, take away 1x. That's 3x. 2y, take away 2y. That's 0y. 26, take away 14. That's 12. Okay, great. So 3x equals 12. So x equals 4. Let's continue on. Let's take our question 1 again. And what was the original question 1? Let's zoom back out to have a check there. Yeah, original question 1 was 2x plus y equals 13. So 2x plus y equals 13. So we're plugging in our x equals 4, so 2 by 4 plus y equals 13. So 8 plus y equals 13. So y equals 5. Okay, so we've got a value for x. We've got a value for y. Let's pop that into coordinate form just to make things a bit easier for ourselves. X comma y equals 4 comma 5. And now let's take our second equation again, which we wrote up at the top. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back up here. Okay, so we've got x equals 4, y equals 5. And we're just going to solve this equation. I've actually ran out of space a little bit. So we're just going to take that equation. So we've got x comma y equals 4 comma 5. Take equation 2. X plus 2y equals 14. So 4 plus 2 by 5. So we've plugged in x and y, and we need to figure out, does that equal 14? That's going to equal 4 plus 10 equals 14. Fantastic. So we've checked that our equations are correct. And I'm just going to scroll through those past slides just to review over. So how we solved our bag of chips question, if you want to pause and jot that down for yourself, just so you have a good example of one of the more complicated answers. And then some of the more kind of straightforward answers. I could have just used this space here. I didn't realize that. My apologies, girls. But either way, you should still have solutions there. Okay? So, what am I going to give you as work to do to review over? So, on page 193, can we do questions 1, 4, and 7? So these are just checking if our answers are correct. So they give you the answer, they give you the simultaneous equations. All you have to do is just check to make sure your solutions are valid. And then on page 195, I want you girls to do questions 4, 5, 7, 14, 19, and 21. Okay, so do these questions for me there. As always, if you have any questions, you're free to contact me. I'm always happy to answer any questions you girls might have. Thank you very much, girls. I will expect this work done for me by 3 p.m. on Wednesday. Thank you.